Several Catholic statues were beheaded in Ontario about a month ago. Police say it's not a hate crime, and you're probably just hearing about it now in the media, if you've even heard about it at all. Another year, friends, and Christians continue to be the most persecuted religion on the face of the planet. And while we like to think the second-class citizen treatment is exclusive to the Middle East, parts of Africa, and that evil empire of China, that difference in treatment can still be seen in policing and media and political concern levels right here in North America. Just look at this from Sudbury.com. 8 religious statues depicting the Stations of the Cross at Grotto of Our Lady of Lourdes in downtown Sudbury have been beheaded. Hang on for a second here, not just vandalized, beheaded. Their heads were chopped off. How do you even behead a statue? That requires a lot of planning and forethought and some serious tools brought to the scene of the crime. It hardly seems like a spur-of-the-moment drunken prank to me. It seems very premeditated. Let's go on. Those responsible for the vandalism, however, remain unknown, and with no video surveillance of the area, no suspects, and no witnesses, it doesn't appear as though this fact will be changing anytime soon. Vandalism of the 4 bronze statues, they were bronze, at the property in the care of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Sault Ste. Marie is suspected to have occurred between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. on May 22nd, so in broad daylight, said Staff Sergeant Sherry Young of the Greater Sudbury Police Service. Should a suspect be identified, she said they would be charged with mischief, either above or below $5,000 depending on the value of the property. Restitution would also be requested. Oh, really? So it's not a religiously motivated hate crime, just some plain old mischief, hey? Wonder why that is, or why police are already making that determination before they even have a suspect in custody. And this happened over a month ago, so why are we just hearing about it now? Do you think this would have been a story hidden away for a good 4 weeks if this happened at a mosque? If this were an attack on another religion, would the media be so blasé about it? Not likely. I tried to keep my first couple of comparisons in Ontario just for consistency's sake. Last summer, a mosque in Owen Sound was turned into, I guess, a hot dog over 2 nights in 2 separate acts of vandalism. Let's read the story. In the first incident, he said tomato sauce was splattered all over the front entrance and the roof and walls were egged. Then the next day, mustard was splattered over the entrance and the building and parking lot was egged again. Now, Global News in that story even found someone to claim that this was somehow indicative of the rise of white supremacy. However, the guy who did this was charged and convicted, as he absolutely should have been. I'm glad to see the police and the community took this religiously motivated attack seriously. I mean, the media sure did. And when a statue of Pierre Elliott Trudeau was painted black a couple weeks ago to reflect, I guess, the family resemblance with his black-faced son, the police at one point considered it a hate crime.
Is it possible that this could be considered a hate crime at all?
A hate crime, or it's possible.
So that statue being attacked, hate crime, Catholic one's not. And who could forget the hijab hoax of 2018? An 11-year-old girl said an Asian man ran up behind her on the way to school and snipped at her hijab with some scissors. The incident garnered international outrage, breathless and unskeptical media coverage, and a supportive tweet from the Prime Minister. And a hate crimes investigation, except the whole thing was a complete and total lie and a libel on Canada's Asian community.
CPC fake news!
CPC fake news!
Rebel media, real news!
Rebel media, real news!
And further from Ontario, but still indicative of the same problem of inequitable coverage and Christian places being targets of vandalism in North America to very little public outrage. The 208-year-old church across the street from the White House was set on fire and vandalized by rioters. That's the church Trump stood with a Bible in front of in a show of strength and support for the Christian community. Well, that church was hit again by BLM vandalism, spray painted with the word BHAZ, standing for Black House Autonomous Zone, representing the protesters in Washington. And nobody seems to care at all. It would seem the attacks on churches are actually a, quote, systemic part of the BLM protest, to use that word the left just discovered like a month ago. The Catholic News Agency reports that church buildings in California, Minnesota, New York, Kentucky, Texas, and Colorado have all been attacked by BLM protesters. Many of the defaced or damaged churches were cathedrals. The Cathedral Basilica of the Immaculate Conception in Denver sustained permanent damage from these riots. As Christian persecution continues to rise around the world, North Americans will continue to ignore it. And the persecution, well, it's probably going to increase because society doesn't even much seem to care about what happens to Christians here. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. At Rebel News, we tell you the other side of the story the mainstream media doesn't want to. We're critics of liberal progressivism. We're critics of cancel culture, and we're advocates for persecuted Christian minorities. And we rely on the support of people like you at home. We are fiercely independent. We'll never take a penny from Justin Trudeau. If you want to support the work that we do, please go to helprebelnews.com.